Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
For better or worse.
Yes. This time with feeling. Welcome to PIX on Pigskin from the PIX 11 Sports Department, high above 42nd Street, right here in the heart of New York City. I am your host, Todd Ehrlich, the executive producer of the PIX 11 Sports Department. With us today, we are honored to have the New York Times best-selling author, the man who covered New York football since 1989. Yes, he's old, as we all are. The one, the only, Gary Myers. Gary, thank you for coming.
It's always a pleasure to join such an esteemed group.
We appreciate it. We also have with us a member of the Jets' all-time team, their linebacker and ours, the legendary Greg Buttle. Greg.
Oh no!
Spider, get me a drink.
Spider
No
is with
shots
us.
will be fired during this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. And a backer of Greg's, and an all-time great guy, great broadcaster, no average Joe, the legendary host of the New York Blitz, Joe Masseri.
Legend in his own
What
mind.
was
And mine.
Why is he calling you Spider now? Because you're everywhere?
Yeah, that's it. I got my hand in everything.
It's an endearing term, just so you know.
It is
No
a-
endearing terms come out of your mouth.
That's
so-
not true.
Well, before
he
you
is
get
one of the
killed, the
all-time
name is Spider.
nicest people. He tries to be intimidating, but he's not. Rundown for today's show. The Jets were blown out by Buffalo, but looking to catch a fish this Sunday at MetLife Stadium. While the Giants are
Not a
rested, and it's a mammal. While the Giants are rested, ready, details, Mensa, details. While the Giants are rested and ready for some Monday Night Football versus the champs in Tampa Bay, we're ready to break down the Jets with Greg Buttle. Greg, let's start with this. The Jets' defense has been historically awful. They've given up over 45 points in the last 3 games. Last team to do so, the 1966 Giants, which Gary Myers was, of course, covering as a adult journalist.
God.
Why hasn't Robert
You think I'm as
Saleh?
old as you?
Yes, I do actually. Although you look much better, much more preserved. Greg, why hasn't Robert Saleh, who came in as a defensive coach and one of note, hasn't been able to turn around the Jets' defense?
Well, I'd start with, first of all, it's not his job to do that. His job is the head coach, and yes, you can put some say into your defense if you'd like, but the responsibility is Jeff Ulbrich. That's who the responsibility falls on, as LaFleur, the offensive woes, falls on LaFleur. That being said, you've got to be able to allow your coaches to coach, and people would say all over the place, particularly the critics, well, he's not coaching well, they gave up all those points, and there's a lot of reasons why things happen on a football field, and one of them is A, coaching, B, players. The question comes down to is, where does it meet, and who's responsible? So you can always say it's the coach's fault. That's what I like to say. But I do know it's the player's fault. Why do I say that? Because the coaches don't play. Players do. And when you're out on a football field and you recognize what the play is, you have a better chance of making the play. Like I've always felt, if you know the answers to the test before you take it, you should do pretty well on it.
Pretty well.
So that's really what it is. It's about understanding what's happening
I
around
just
you
want to
right
point
now.
out that's what happened at Penn State because he was a football player. He always had the answers to the test before he took it.
Everyone
Leading
cheated
tackler.
off of me.
Leading tackler when he left Penn State, in the history of Penn State when he left. Leading tackler, Greg
Well, I
Buttle.
still am.
Still am? He
Yeah.
still is, Greg.
LeVar
He
Arrington
passed
didn't
it.
pass you?
Double
No.
nickels.
No way. LeVar Arrington? Get out of here. He was on the line of scrimmage, rush the passer guy type of guy. LeVar Arrington's a nice kid. Really.
But you did have all the answers to the test, especially the chemistry test,
Well, you have
the
to.
astronomy test.
You have to. It was in a file cabinet at the fraternity house. But be that as it may, let's get back to the Jets defense. So yes, Robert Saleh probably does have input to it, but in reality, it's what I found over the years. When you become a head coach, okay, you're all of a sudden hired, and you have ideas who you want for your defensive and offensive coordinators, but where are they? Well, they're employed. So maybe the best guy that he wanted was employed. Maybe Jeff Ulbrich is the best guy, but you've got to learn your way into the job. And part of learning your way into the job is understanding who can do what, when, and how on that field that you have to place on the field. So a lot of times when that happens, and by the way, half the defense is young, the other half got injured, the best player was taken off on an Achilles tendon injury. All of these things happen, and it's not an excuse, it is reality. And so all of these things that go in here, from first-year defensive coordinator, first-year head coach, first-year players, understanding that, it becomes very difficult. And that's why I've always said, you can turn around. You can turn a season around. You can turn a game around. You can turn the future around if you have the right plan and you stick with the plan. If you're telling me, that's not the right plan, fire the guy, do this, I say you're 100% wrong. You cannot do that. You've got to allow coaches to gain momentum, to gain an understanding
You
of
don't
their
think
teams.
10 weeks is enough to fully turn around the Jets franchise?
Well, let me put it this way. In all the years you've played, what aspect gives you the ability to understand that you can turn a team around in 8 weeks? Because you've got 22 moving parts on a football field. 22 different guys have different personalities, different characters. The league has different rules. There's so many things going on here. I got to give an Ulbrich or a LaFleur, and for that matter, a Saleh, time to figure it out. And despite the fact they are coaches and he's the head coach, he should have it figured out. It's not the way it works. Not very often do you have a head coach come in and say, okay, we're going to the Super Bowl. Maybe, Fairbanks did that? No, not Fairbanks. The Dallas Cowboys, when he replaced Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, no, Switzer.
Switzer did that.
Oh,
He
yeah,
came in,
very.
took a championship team, went to the championship again, okay? That's rare. That is
Yeah.
rare. Bill Belichick couldn't do that. So my thing is that give the guy a chance to figure it out and see where it happens. But you can't do that, and you can't be so critical of what they're doing right now, because they're first-year coaches and players. I give that guy a break.
So the question is, those who can do, those who can't coach, those who can't coach are in broadcasting.
Yes.
Rex Ryan from the broadcast booth.
Oh, man.
He's not in the NFL, he's not coaching, yet was exceedingly critical of Robert Saleh and said, don't even compare Saleh to me, because they're both defensive coaches. From my perspective, Rex Ryan took Mangini's team to 2 straight championship teams. When he built a team, they were awful. Was he fair this week in his blistering criticism of Coach Saleh?
You're asking me that
I
question.
am, Greg. And then Gary, and then Joe.
Let me preface this with I've always liked Rex Ryan. I mean,
Who doesn't like Rex Ryan?
I've liked
His
that
wife's feet
style.
like Rex Ryan.
I've liked that style that we saw. I like that Hank Stram, Retigliano type of guy that tells it the way it is on the field, and I think that's entertaining. Rex Ryan is a very, very good defensive coordinator. Learned a lot from the old man. So the guy can coach.
Best of
There's
the
not a
best.
question about that. Now the question comes down to is, why did he pick on Saleh? I don't know the answer to that, and so I would tell you, if I knew more, I could make an intelligent response. But from what I see, I don't understand why he went after Saleh, because I have not seen anybody. Maybe you guys have. I haven't seen anything written about Saleh saying that he's the next Rex Ryan, or that somebody said he's better than Rex Ryan. I haven't seen that. So to me, I don't know where this came from. So I have to sit back and go, let's see it play out. And by the way, he's got a job, Rex Ryan. His job is to be critical. That's what they pay him to be.
He was
I
he was critical.
I think what happened is that Saleh never compared himself to Rex Ryan. I mean, of course he wouldn't do that. I just think that somewhere along the way people are saying, well, Saleh came here as a defensive coach, Rex came as a defensive coach. They're just making the comparisons that way. But, Rex is one of those guys that's got to always stick his nose in everything because in his new job, because he's trying to stay relevant. I do have the solution. I thought this would have been a good segue
All right.
to this.
I have questions.
Subject
You have answers.
After the season is over, Robert Saleh should hire Rex Ryan as his defensive coordinator.
Oh, that's hysterical.
I don't think that would go over too well.
No, because there are issues there that are there that I don't think would be workable. Okay? First of all, you'd have to have a
Now, I do
close
wanna say-
cage match first.
I want to say, if Rex hadn't unloaded on Saleh the other day, and the defense continues to give up 40 points a week, or in the case of New England, 54 points, I could think of worse ideas than having a changeover in defensive staff and letting Rex run the defense, because that's all he did when he was the head coach anyway. Now, it's not going to happen, and if there was ever any chance of it happening, which is probably 2%,
It's now down to
it's now
0.2%.
It's now in the
right.
negatives. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen. But to me, the star of the week was Robert Saleh's brother.
Oh, yeah.
In his firing back at Rex, telling him to get back to podiatry and eating
Called him a
cheeseburgers.
clown.
Called him a clown.
Yeah.
The podiatry line was entertaining.
That was good. The cheeseburger line was good, too.
Yeah. And it's, to my knowledge, Saleh does not have a tattoo on his arm of Zach Wilson.
Well, maybe he's getting one. You don't know.
Yeah.
He wears the hoodies. I mean, I've never seen him roll up
Yeah,
his sleeve.
yeah.
He could.
No, but point is, we really don't know what turned Rex Ryan into that.
Well, he did it to Mike McCarthy last week. This week was Robert Saleh. Tomorrow will be somebody
No,
else.
but he didn't compare. He wasn't comparing Mike McCarthy. It's okay to be critical of a coach in that position that Rex Ryan is in, or a player, to say, hey, listen, he's not playing well. Or hey, listen, I
Well,
don't know
then
what to
to be
do
fair-
coaching, but to invect.
He's
The
very
vitriol.
Yeah,
He's
yes.
very, very bitter. He comes off as extremely bitter
Very
and
bitter.
jealous that he doesn't have one of these 32 jobs anymore.
But by
that's
that,
how I look at it.
By that token of being critical, right, of a head coach, I mean, he said, I don't want to be compared to Robert Saleh anymore because this guy hasn't done anything yet, in his view of the
I just
world.
don't know who. I don't know who compared him. I haven't seen
There's
it.
5,000 websites now.
Right.
4,995.
By the way,
written
there's
by
way
pe-
more than 5,000.
Okay. I'm talking about football websites. 99% of them are written by people who have never been in an NFL stadium. It's just these guys sitting in their underwear
Oh,
in their mother's
come on.
basement.
I kind
Really?
of believe that. But what he's alluding to is that they're probably just journalists.
Oh, got it. Got it. Hey, there's free food in the press box.
I'm sorry.
The journalists come to the
I had to
stadium.
go there, Gary. I had to give it one.
The Giants do the omelets.
They're
the
not,
Giants
they're
don't.
not journalists anymore.
No.
Anybody who wants to write can write.
Yeah, there's no
I mean,
barrier
that's why I
to
hate
entry.
all these
Well-
websites, because I resent it. I admit it. I resent it. I went to journalism
As you
school.
should.
I paid my dues to get to the Dallas Morning News and New York Daily News, to get to two of the best papers in the country, to cover the NFL. And these people said, well, I can't get a legitimate job, so I'm just going to start my own website and blog about the Giants and Jets, not having any contacts, never going to games, knowing nobody in the locker room in the front office. Somebody picks up one of their opinions and runs with it, even though literally it's somebody sitting in their underwear in their mother's basement, and it becomes
And get off my lawn while you're at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
He's
just
right, though. He's right.
it's ridiculous.
Does that reflect back on the old saying that any news is good news? In other words, if you're writing about me, at least my name's in the paper.
It's any publicity is good publicity. That's not any news is good news. So get your cliches correct, sir.
I stand redacted.
You sit redacted.
No, but you're right. There were so many voices and so many people who were writing in basements and things like
People
that.
have
Joe,
podcasts, for goodness sake.
It could have been somebody in the green room at ESPN. Hey, Rex, did you see this guy in frickin' Cincinnati who I never heard of, but he said Robert Saleh is the next Rex Ryan. Really? Who wrote that? I don't know who wrote it. And he goes on a radio show. Well, people are comparing Robert Saleh to me. That's how this stuff starts.
That's how it happens.
I find it. I don't find it useful for anything other than maybe your own thing. So maybe that's all it was. Maybe it was all about Rex Ryan. Maybe that's what.
Well, he got his name out there.
Yeah.
So you got a lot of publicity this
Yeah, but
week.
he'd have to do that to get his name out there.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying.
He has a platform at ESPN.
I just felt that Rex was above that, in terms of name calling or whatever it may have been, or maybe he wasn't name calling.
I mean, he made it
but-
really, really personal, and there was really no reason for it. When he used to say that stuff in his press conferences leading up to a game,
Love
I'm not here to kiss Belichick's
His
rings.
rings,
we,
right.
we ate that stuff up. We loved it because
Yeah,
it was
great
funny.
stuff, yeah.
It was. I can't say it was good natured, but it was kind of
It
harmless.
was harmless.
What he's been
Belichick
saying the
didn't
last
take
two.
that seriously.
I know we talked about this last week, but ripping McCarthy for keeping Dak in a blowout game. I mean, he's probably right about that. But he's the last person that should be able to complain because he ruined Mark Sanchez's career by putting him in the Snoopy Bowl game in the fourth quarter.
Right, but he's learned from that
He
experience.
didn't learn anything.
Apparently. So, speaking of quarterbacks and possibly learning, Joe Flacco, Super Bowl MVP, gets the start for the Jets this week. Joe, you've been awfully quiet, which is upsetting. What do you
It's
think
hard.
about?
You get in the middle of these two,
These two,
you got to just
right.
be prepared to suffer this
Well,
things
that's
and
where I
arrows.
start with you. Do you think that was the right move?
No, not at all.
No.
But I didn't think bringing Joe Flacco into this team was the right move when they did it, and based on the timing of when they did it.
I think keeping him would have been the right move.
Right, if they had brought him in to start the season, kept him beforehand. I mean, whatever. There were multiple points where it would have been better than giving up a draft pick to bring him in, and so it didn't make sense then. And now to put him in when I guess the Mike White train obviously came crashing to a halt against the Bills.
Four
But that's the
picks.
number one defense. But that's the number one
Yes.
defense in the league. And you're not going to
they
learn
were
anything
pissed
about Joe.
off.
What are you hoping
They
to
were
gain
just
out of
beat
this?
in Jacksonville.
And do you really want a win? I mean, do you want a win? Every player that steps on the field wants to win when they're playing that game. I get that. But from an organizational standpoint, is it imperative that you get a win over the Dolphins when you're, basically looking at another high draft pick? That's not going to help you. And Joe Flacco could go out and tear up the Dolphins defense. He's not going to be your quarterback moving forward. So why
Right.
not see what you have in Mike White, build his trade value?
See, I agree with that, but as Mr. Buttle has said, this is not about wins and losses this
Right.
year for the Jets. It's about evaluating players.
So
and
who are you
development.
evaluating?
wait,
Elijah Moore, who scored touchdowns
so
in
what
4
Saleh
games?
said, or what he alluded to, was having Flacco out there gives the rest of the team the best chance to excel.
But who are you evaluating then? Are you Elijah Moore, who scored touchdowns in 4 straight games now with other
Five would
quarterbacks who
be
looks
good.
great? So he looks like he's coming into his own. A little bit of an exaggeration, obviously, with the word "great" there, but the offensive playmakers on this team are not young, right? Corey Davis isn't young. You're not evaluating him. You know what you have
The
in
running
him.
backs are young.
And Joe Flacco is going to make a difference for those running backs. Does he? I don't know.
Maybe throwing screens, getting
I
out in
just have a
coverage.
question. I have an unrelated question because
Unrelated
at the
to
end of the
what?
same thing, this conversation.
This conversation,
Yeah.
what we're having.
I mean, Tom
On the-
Coughlin takes
Yes.
the Giants to 2 Super Bowls, and he's forgotten about. Bill
I didn't
Parcells
forget
takes him
about
to
him.
2 Super Bowls, and he's the greatest coach in the Giants' history. And I'm just wondering, where's the disconnect there? Wouldn't you?
Apropos of nothing.
Parcells.
Where
first
did that
of all-
come from?
I was just
Well-
thinking about that because this conversation was boring me.
Well,
I actually think with Greg's, I think that's a topic worth discussing.
Well, can I say 2 things about it?
Yeah.
Thing number 1, Parcells took a giant franchise that was losing, turned them into Super Bowl champions, which meant a lot to this city. Thing number 2, though, I think to fully answer that question, I feel like there should be a book written about it. That's what I think.
I know a guy that knows how to write.
Who? Joe?
That
Spit
Gary,
it out.
that Gary guy.
That Gary guy, he can write. He can write.
Just
in
wondering,
his
I
underwear in
just-
the basement, he
All right,
can
let's go
write.
back. Okay, let's go back.
No, I want to answer this thing. He
Just throw that rundown just right out the
Right
window.
out the window.
Parcells did take over a team that was in the toilet and won 2 championships with a team that was 14-2 in '86. I think they were 13-3 in 1990. Okay, when the Giants won the Super Bowl in 2007, their 10-6 record tied for the worst record ever by a Super Bowl champion. And 4 years later, the Giants broke that record by going 9-7 and winning Super Bowl. Giants have the worst record ever for a Super Bowl champion. So
That's
those-
like the guy who graduates last from med school. You know what they call him?
Doctor.
I mean, it's unbelievable that he would even go on that line.
But here's what I'm going to say. Coughlin was. It wasn't a build-up in either one of those seasons where Coughlin was being hailed as this genius. Eli Manning got on two unbelievable runs that I believe deserved to get him in the Hall of Fame and deserves to get. Coughlin also deserves to be.
If you only had a vote,
Well, hopefully I'll have it at that point. I'll still have it at that point. Bill Parcells was a much better coach than Tom Coughlin. It's not even close. Not even close.
Wow.
all right, asked and answered. Another question. Another question. The Dolphins' defense has allowed 50 plays of over 20 yards. They're 31st in the NFL. Joe, do you see the Jets' offense being able to exploit that at all?
No. Yeah, I think it's going to be a rough
Why,
week.
Joe?
Yeah,
tell me
why, Joe?
Because I think that
Yeah,
the
I wanna know why.
Dolphins showed
Wait, I thought we
that
were talking about the Giants already.
Not yet.
they're rounding
Coming.
into form, right? And I think that they have had some obvious issues to start the season. I think that the quarterback carousel does not benefit the Jets, right? You can't get continuity, and this is their fourth quarterback in 5 games that they've had under center, third quarterback starting the game. And, I think that the Dolphins had some injuries to start the season. They had a lot going on. They've been in very close games defensively. And I think that is the strength of this team. And their secondary is strong.
They're
I mean, they have one of the
31st
best
in the
quarterbacks.
NFL. There's only 32 teams.
I understand that in total number of big plays.
that's the
was Lamar
strength of their
was Lamar
team.
Jackson able to
They're-
exploit that defense?
They beat the Ravens. Are the Ravens good?
I mean,
I'm just asking. They are good,
I think
right?
they're one of the super. We heard a betting expert say that we should vote.
We did
for,
hear that.
We should place a wager
People
on
could
Lamar
hear that
Jackson.
Saturday night at 10:30.
There you go.
The New York Blitz,
for
PIX
MVP.
11.
But I look at this Dolphins team, and this is still the strength of this team is that defense. And I think that Brian Flores, who last year everybody wanted to anoint as the next coming, has obviously had his issues this season. But he's supposed to be able to scheme, right? That was the theory coming in, and it seems like now his guys are getting back on the right page. So I think they've got 2 straight wins coming in off Houston and Baltimore. A little more time to prepare. And we have seen that for some teams that doesn't mean anything, like the Jets. I think for Miami and Flores, it's going to be a benefit to them, especially when you know what you've gotten, Joe Flacco, and who you're playing there.
I think,
Therefore you are.
Jet fans had gotten so attached to Mike White that even after a horrendous performance the other day, they were not ready to let go. But I'm of the belief that the decision on who starts Sunday is completely irrelevant, that this season is all about Zach Wilson. And on a really, really good team, the backup quarterback is probably one of the 5 or 6 most important players on the team.
So why not develop Mike White? Why start Flacco?
But here's my
If
point.
Zach is the future, why not try to develop Mike White?
Here's my point. The Jets are a long way from being a really good team. And I think the coaches truly believe that Flacco gives them a better chance to win on
But
Sunday.
why does that matter?
Because they're in it to win. You think Saleh wants to lose every week, and after looking at what Mike White did the other day, you think he wants to see that again? I don't see the point.
Wait, so you think that would happen again against this Miami defense?
It's possible.
And what happens if Joe Flacco goes out there and throws 3 interceptions?
Then the Jets have lost games all year, games that 3 different quarterbacks have started. Then big deal. I just what I'm saying is, by the time the Jets are a really good team, Mike White's not going to be the backup quarterback anyhow. He'll either stink or
100%. No, 100% agree with that statement. But of the quarterbacks that are on the Jets
You
right
didn't
now,
see enough of him last week.
do you think of the
He looked like he
quarterbacks
never
right now-
played football before.
I get that, but the Bills' defense is the number 1 defense in the league, and he's made a lot of people. And how many of those?
Big
First of
deal.
all, but he threw most of those interceptions when the game was out of reach. Right? That game was 38-3 in the third quarter. I think when he threw either 2 or 3 of those picks. So he was trying to force the ball. He
was a
trying to do
nice
things.
little story for 2 weeks. He is who he is. He's not Kurt Warner. He's
So
Mike
you
White.
think Joe Flacco should be starting this game?
I'm saying it doesn't matter. And I think what people are upset about with this situation is that Saleh is coming off as indecisive.
Yes.
Because on Monday he
Yes.
said,
Yes.
don't jump off the train, and on Wednesday he jumps off the train.
Yes.
Saleh's coming off as he has no plan because over the
Yes.
summer he says, we don't need a veteran backup,
And then
and
he
now he
trades a
benches
sixth-round pick,
White,
right.
and they give up a 6th-round pick for Flacco. And I think he's starting this week to justify giving up a 6th-round pick
He
to make the
said he
general
wasn't.
manager.
He was asked that directly.
Yeah. So, in the short term, it's a fun thing to talk about. In the long term, in the big picture, it means absolutely nothing. The key to this season, the key to the future of this team, is Zach Wilson. It's not whether Mike White is the backup
Is there
quarterback.
more upside? Forget about if maybe Mike White's not even on this team next year, right?
Right.
But so is there more upside to starting White or Flacco? First of all, do you think that Joe Flacco gives them a better chance to win this game this week when he hasn't started under center? He's thrown 3 passes in a game for the New York Jets this season, and it's basically a different team from what they had last year offensively.
And different offensive scheme.
Right.
I put in the category of, can he do any worse than Mike White did last week?
But Mike
No.
White has the upside, the potential. If Mike
Right.
White goes out
He
and has a
didn't
great
throw
game,
a pass of more than 15 yards against the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not talking about
He got to
completing-
win.
All right, even the what's the expression?
A broken
about
clock
the,
is
about the squirrel
right
and
twice
the
a day.
blind
eggcorn
squirrel
and
finds a
We
nut.
keep receipts
even
here.
Buttle can get a tackle. I mean,
Whoa.
today's Greg Buttle.
I'm just glad that
The only-
Gary is sitting closer to the door.
Gary's lucky that they have spell check now. That's all.
No, seriously, I just don't think it matters. It's because there's nothing else to talk about. The Jets stink. Their defense is horrendous. He makes a quarterback change, and we're treating it as if he just benched Wilson for Flacco. He sat White on the bench. It doesn't matter.
But you have so many things, right? I don't care what you do.
The guy was incompetent last week.
I understand, but I don't care when people make decisions, right? The decision is sometimes less relevant than the why you made that decision.
Well,
and the why makes no sense.
You know what
here.
makes no sense to me? They traded for Flacco on a Monday. They knew he wasn't vaccinated
Right.
and couldn't come in the
Yes.
building until Friday.
Yes.
Having a game Sunday and another game Thursday.
Yes.
So he was going to get
He was going to miss those 2
a Friday
games.
practice, a Saturday walkthrough, and then one practice during the week before Indianapolis.
He
So
wasn't starting against Indianapolis when they traded for him.
Right.
Because he wasn't vaccinated.
So right.
So it's
at the most
ridiculous.
they're thinking that Wilson's going to miss 2 to 4 games, and you trade for Flacco,
Right.
knowing he's going to miss 2 games.
Yes.
At that point, having no idea what you had in White,
and
lightning
he
in a
got
bottle.
Josh Johnson.
I mean, if he wanted to start Josh Johnson on Sunday, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. The guy threw for 300 yards,
Right.
and 3 touchdowns, whatever. It just doesn't matter in
You-
the big picture. It doesn't matter.
I get it.
What matters is why wasn't Joe Douglas criticized for trading for a quarterback that first was going to have to sit out 2 games because he wasn't vaccinated?
Well, he
just
was.
did.
He
You
was.
just criticized
Right,
him.
and-
I did, but I'm saying, has there been any uproar about that?
I mean, there was plenty of criticism at the time when they traded for Flacco about why are they making that move now? You're giving up a 6th-round pick for him. We said all season you should have had a veteran quarterback.
I think all
the
this was
roster.
said
It was
here and everywhere. Here, there, and everywhere. So here's what's important to Greg Buttle, wins and losses. It's all that matters to him. He's been saying all year. Gary Myers, who wins the game this weekend, the Jets or Dolphins?
I was gonna be Buttle and not give an answer because he's afraid to commit to anything.
No,
He
that's
does
not
have
true.
commitment
I just don't
problems.
want to give a score like a moron.
Don't give a score. You'll just pick a team. Gary, pick a team.
I actually think that the Jets have a chance to win this game. Everybody's getting all excited about the Dolphins' defense as if it's the '85 Bears. I mean, I know they did a nice job on Lamar Jackson, but I'd say the Jets 16-13,
86 Bears, coached by Rex Ryan's father, Joe.
85 Bears.
85, good point.
I think that
86 Giants. There's got to be a book there.
I think that unlike the Jets, the Dolphins, with more time to prepare, with Brian Flores, will be ready to shut down this Jets offense. And I think
That's going to take some game plan to shut down that offense.
exactly. So they're not going to need that much. And then throw in the fact that this Jets defense, which has just been an absolute, head scratcher the entire season, is giving up 40 points a game. I think even Tua and company can look good against this Jets D. I think Miami's going to win it. I'm going to go 23-17 Dolphins.
Mr. Buttle?
as usual, I have no thought on what a score should be, but I
No,
think the
nor
Jets
should
certainly
you.
can win the football game. Number one, they are playing home. Number two is they didn't play well in the second half for a number of reasons. Now, that being said, okay, the Dolphins pasted the Ravens last week. The Dolphins have lost 4 games by less than 3 points, or 3 points per game. I mean, the Dolphins can play. I got to tell you something. I think the Jets can win. There's not a question. But what type of hangover are they going to come out to this game with their defense? If you're telling me the Jets can win the football game giving up 34 points, I think you're nuts. So I don't think the Jets are going to be able to beat Miami giving up that many points. That's all I'm saying. So, and I don't think it's changing. They'd have to show me that they're going to change defensively somehow to make a difference in this football game.
The Jets, the big issue on the table is holding teams under 40 points. Jets do that this week. They hold Tua and the Dolphins at 39. Flacco goes nuts, scores 40. Jets win by 1. Moving on to the Giants.
Now they're 10-0, right?
10-0 in my book, yes. So moving on to the Giants, Big Blue. Both Washington and New Orleans defense had success against Tom Brady in the last 2 weeks, handing him 2 losses. What can the Giants take away from those films and try to use against Tom Brady to try to slow him down, Mr. Defense, Mr. Linebacker, Mr. Buttle?
Well, I think you can do a lot of things. I mean, if you can see that a team was able to mix up coverages, and let's just use the coverage situation defensively, because that's how the Jets beat Brady. They didn't beat Brady because they sacked him 1,000 times in the playoffs when Rex Ryan was the coach. They beat him because they confused him with coverages. And by the time you read it, when you get a quarterback that takes more than 3 seconds to throw the ball, especially Brady. Brady's a timer, man. He's going 1, 2, throw, 1, 2, throw. You get him off the spot, he becomes like a lot of other quarterbacks. I think this is the most
Human?
games. Well, yeah, human. It's hard to see Tom Brady do that, but and it may not even be so much Tom Brady's fault as I'm a little surprised that the Tampa Bay defense hasn't played the way they did before. And I understand the rules and everything is different, but maybe there's something going on with the Tampa Bay defense.
Well, the whole
that we don't know.
secondary
yeah.
hurt the entire season.
Okay, so there you go. So we're going to give Tampa Bay an excuse for that secondary, okay? But no one's going to give the Jets an excuse for their secondary. And the secondary in the Jets has been 1,000 different guys, and certainly Rex Ryan doesn't give anyone an excuse for injuries, as it's hard to do that because you got to play whether you're injured or you're not injured. So when it comes down to the Giants playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, does the Giants defense have enough to cover those guys? Because that's what it's going to be. The Giants will not get beaten by them running the football, by the Tampa Bay running the football. If they're getting beat, it's going to be through the air, and it's going to be Brady to those receivers.
And
That's what they have to do.
We got to see how healthy these receivers are going to be, because against Washington, they were without Antonio Brown. They didn't have Gronkowski, and Chris Godwin played, but he was not 100% going into that.
So they were
he
playing the Washington football team.
Yeah, I know, right? And still they they managed to struggle somehow playing the Washington football team. But Ty Johnson, I think, was one of the receivers. He's on the depth chart who was getting a lot of targets last week from Tom Brady, and clearly they weren't on the same page when you talk about that timing and that chemistry that goes along with that. So if they are healthier, if Gronk is back, if Antonio Brown is back, if Chris Godwin is healthy, then I think the Giants could be in for a long day. But that's a big if.
So Greg alluded to human quarterbacks. Daniel Jones, he's 0-7 in primetime. Mr. Myers, what can we make of that?
He doesn't like playing under the lights? Is that you think it is?
I'm asking you.
I don't know.
I mean, is the stage too big for him? Is it coincidence?
Well, I mean, they
Is
should
it-
listen. Just
Going
like
into you're going into multiple choice now?
Well,
Doesn't like
he
multiple
didn't
choice
seem to have an
questions.
answer,
No,
so
I
I'm
was
trying to
gonna
help him
s-
out
here.
because I like him. He doesn't have spell check for a podcast.
He's a big boy. Put him on his own.
He is
over
a
there.
big. All right,
Listen,
you're on your own.
just off the top of my head, they should have won in Philadelphia last year. Evan Ingram drops the pass that would have clinched the game. They could have beaten the Bucs at home in a Monday night game last year.
It was close.
They outplayed them for most of the game. and Brady
Kansas
won.
City this year.
Yeah, I mean, so it's been pretty much, what's happening in the dark is happening in the afternoon as well. I mean, we're just kind of compartmentalizing it by saying he's 0-7 at night, but the games he's losing during the daytime also, with a couple of victories sprinkled in. So I don't take anything out of that. I will say that, as we mentioned on the show last week, Daniel Jones's first start was against the Bucs in the pre-Brady days in 2019, and other than the game that he played in Washington later that year, where I believe he threw 5 touchdown passes, that was the second best game he played, was the game in Tampa. He scores the winning touchdown with a minute to go. I think he had 2 touchdowns throwing, 2 rushing, and over 300 yards passing. The Bucs defense has some of the same players, but new coordinator and everything. Maybe the challenge of facing Brady gets him excited, and he takes care of the ball better. That's the only chance they have to win. They can't be creating a short field for the Bucs offense like they've done for so many other teams over the years, with him either throwing an interception, and he's cut down on the interceptions. But every time he drops back, I still expect the worst with him, that someone's got to hit him and knock the ball out, because he just hasn't found a way to either feel the rush coming or to secure it after he gets hit.
Sean Landetta had a good point on the New York Blitz, which you can listen to in its entirety on
Or watch.
Saturday.
Or watch.
Or watch.
10:30
Why listen when
Saturday
you can
night.
watch?
There you go.
Well, if you're doing stuff, you at least have it
have it
on.
on in the background.
Listen, if you have a Nielsen box, just turn it on. You can listen. That works also 10:30, I think, right?
Listen, if they have a Nielsen box, they can put it on mute for all
Right,
I care.
it works for me.
As long as it's on
But
the
PIX
TV.
11, 10:30 Saturday night.
But Sean said it. If when you're in a primetime game, chances are you're playing a good team, and maybe, likely, if the Giants weren't in the New York market, they wouldn't have as many primetime games as they've had the last few seasons. And with that new flex plan late in the season, maybe they would have been flexed out a couple of those primetime games.
Well, then why aren't the Jets on?
Well, they had a Thursday night game, I guess.
The Giants
'Cause
are
the
on
yeah.
Monday Night Football.
And they went to London, too,
2
the
out of 3
Jets.
weeks or whatever this is.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just on again.
Yeah, against the Kansas
Kansas
City
City.
Chiefs and the Super Bowl champion
And
Bucs.
the last two Super Bowl champs, the Giants get matched on Monday night.
And last year's Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, Mr. Buttle, how much of an advantage is it for the Giants to have 2 weeks off to prepare for Tampa?
Obviously, no one knows. Because
But if anybody knows, obviously, it'd be you, Mr. Buttle. You played the game. First of all, Barkley practiced in another week to get healthy. You don't think that makes a difference?
I don't necessarily think Barkley needs to practice to be game ready.
Well, he had an extra week to get healthy.
Okay, so he had an extra week to
So
get ready.
that's it. That's one. I tried to give you a softball.
The problem,
You went obvious
well, here
on
comes
me.
the problem, and the problem exists that everyone thinks that a 2-week layoff is great for you physically.
Yes.
I don't think so.
No.
I think it's bad for you mentally, and that's the
You
difference.
don't
because
stay sharp?
No, I don't think you do. I think the game is 80% mental, 20% physical. And
Wow.
you've got to be doing everything every single day that you do. It's rote, man. You watch film, you do this, you go to. Man, they get off. It's almost like a vacation. They practice maybe 7 days into 2 weeks, and then they walk throughs, and it's a little different. I think that those things, particularly to an average football team, is hard to keep concentration for the players. When you're a good football team, you're a good football team because you've learned how to concentrate. You have the discipline to concentrate. And that's practicing. That's doing it every single day. So I think it hurts teams that aren't good. I think the 2-week layoff, or whatever you're going to call the bye week, doesn't help teams that are looking to become better.
So the Giants are not a good team then?
Well, I don't consider them a good team.
Okay.
I mean, I don't consider, if you're under 500, Do you consider that the team a good team?
Well, I don't, but wins and losses don't matter to
They
you.
may be
so-
trending. They may trend up.
Yeah.
Now, trending up is a little different, but you're still not a good team until you prove you're a good team. What is being a good team? You have to win 3 in a row to prove that you're a good team. Doesn't mean you can't lose 3 in a row, but you've got to win 3 in a row. You got to show some consistency in what you're doing. And so far, those teams that can't win 3 in a row, they're not good teams.
Tom Brady hasn't lost 3 in a row since 2002.
Well, but he could if he loses Monday night.
And he lost 4 in a row that year.
Craziness.
Mr. Myers, you wrote a book, Brady versus Manning.
I did.
Yes,
Did you
I
read
read it. Yeah, actually, you autographed it for me, which I really appreciated. So, Tom Brady's probably worst ever career loss was in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
He lost out on the opportunity to have a perfect season and tie the Dolphins. So, when he sees blue, does he still see red?
Ooh,
Wow,
well,
he's got
that's
away
a
with
turn of
words.
phrase.
You saw what I did there,
You
right?
are
Yeah.
a wordsmith.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it still bothers him more than any loss in his career. You know, more than the second loss to the Giants, more than the loss to the Eagles, more than the handful of losses he's had in the AFC Championship game because of what they could have accomplished by winning that game, and they came so close. A helmet catch after Eli escaped that.
David
ruin.
Tyree, don't you know?
Yeah. The key to that play was first.
Yes, getting
Eli
out of the
getting out
sack.
of the grasp.
Unbelievable.
Not blowing it.
They easily could have
Unbelievable.
blown the whistle on that
Yes.
one. But yeah, I you know, Tom told me when I was doing the research for that book that you know, he woke up during the night or the next morning and was hoping and praying it was just a nightmare because he couldn't believe that that they lost that game. It was probably the best game I've ever covered, just because of the intensity of it, and because the Patriots are going to make history. Writing for that in the New York market made it extra special because you know how much the fans were into it. But I'd say to this day, 14 years later, that if you would ask Tom, the one game in his entire football career, going back to high school, that still pisses him off.
I love it, except this is not that game. It's a different Giant team, a different game.
No, he was just asking me what he.
And so I don't think it bothers him 1 second that he's going to play the Giants on Monday night and think about that
I don't
game.
think it bothers him. I think he looks as an opportunity to beat them because he feels, you know, he can't beat them enough after what happened in those Super Bowls.
But the funny thing is, he has always had a tough time against the Giants. I mean, pretty much think about last year on Monday Night
Yeah,
Football.
yeah.
I mean, they won, but it was a close game. He lost the other Super Bowl
Yeah.
to the Giants, so they've given him trouble.
Listen, I think there's an argument to be made now with the
He had 9 Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
7. Oh, he would have had 9.
9.
Yeah.
And he lost by less than a touchdown. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah. I mean, the game they lost to the Eagles, they had a shot at the end.
Oh, man.
But you know what? A lot of those games that he won, they could have lost because
Yeah,
they're
kick
winning by the
misses.
first 3 were by field goals.
All right, let's see if we can finish this up with a little bit of hope. Giants go into Tampa. They knock off the champions, give the champions their 3rd straight loss. Are they then a playoff contender with a soft schedule to end the season and a bad NFC? Gary?
What's their record now?
3 and
what?
6.
3 and 6. Yeah, they get to 4 and 6. 7 games to go.
And they're playing the NFC East the rest of the way. Dallas is good, but Philly and Washington
How about
are
if
terrible.
my second favorite bleach?
How hard was it for you
How
to
about if
say
they
That
run
hurt, actually. That
Whoa,
physically
whoa.
hurt.
Don't say
run
it.
the table?
Whoa!
That'd be good.
That's not going to happen, but
No, that's why you coughed.
I know. Yeah, I think that a win on Monday night makes them relevant for at least the next few weeks.
So you're saying is fans should watch the game on Monday Night Football here on PIX 11, watch the Monday Blitz beforehand with Sean
Who's-
Ledetta and Joe Masseri. Be fantastic. Gary
It's
Myers,
an
we couldn't
epiphany. He just had an
afford.
epiphany.
No, I get
What's the epiphany?
I get pushed to the side again.
You never get pushed to the side. We can only ask so much of you, and this is too much already.
Yeah, I mean, primetime show. I can see why you wouldn't want me on.
Exactly. All right,
I
now
have no experience
let's-
in primetime TV.
you do not. Let's wrap this up.
13 years on Inside the NFL on HBO.
That wasn't
12
prime
years-
time. It
Yes,
wasn't
sir.
shown prime time.
Well, it depends which one you watch.
Well, I always watch the replay that wasn't in prime time. They showed it like 50 times.
They did.
You were like the Yule log. You were always on HBO. Never in my life. Every time I turned it on, there was Gary Myers yet again.
You think that we showed
I
that
do think
show a lot
that.
on HBO?
I do.
That was nothing at the comparison to
Yes Network?
the Yes Network.
Oh, that was ridiculous.
I think it was in the contract. It had to be shown like 25 times.
It was
between Tuesday
26.
and- 26.
Yes, a week. You do the
Can't
math.
get enough.
Prediction time, Joe. Who wins Monday night?
I think that Brady and the Bucs right the ship.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
in
well
Tampa.
played, though.
Pirate ship?
See what I did
Would
there?
you then
Pirate ship.
you did
I did
Of
see where you
course I
did that. In the end zone. I liked it.
You know, the cannons will be
I
firing.
maybe.
What
Look,
is that
I think they're
noise
going to be
coming from
healthy
back
this
there?
week. What was that?
There's like a noise coming from his.
Oh,
It's
it
the
was-
pirate ship.
I thought it was your stomach rumbling.
Right. But it could be the pirate ship. Gary, who wins Monday night?
I think the Bucs will win.
All right,
Listen,
please.
I would like to see the Giants win only because it's more fun to talk about. I don't
Yes.
root for the team to win, but
No.
listen, we want fun things to talk about on this podcast and on the show, and the Giants joining the Jets in the cesspool doesn't do us any good.
No,
So-
it doesn't.
But I think the Bucs will win about 34-17.
I think the game will be closer than that. The Giants
Of course
always
it
play
will.
them tough.
So speaking of fun but not cesspools, Mr. Buttle predicts it for Monday night.
Wow, that was a great segue.
Thank you.
I'm going to take the Giants. I'm going to take
Good
the Giants
man.
because this game becomes a game that leads them to 3 in a row, and I think that their defense played pretty good the last time. Quarterback's coming around. Tampa Bay's not playing well, so this is an advantage game for the Giants, and I like it. I like to see the Giants win, and I think they will win.
So you think they're going to win this week and next week?
Yes.
I not only think they will, but I know they will. Mr. Buttle, you're a genius. Giants win 20-19. And that wraps up another episode of PIX on Pigskin. Thank you, John.
Thousands of impressions.
Yes.
People all over the world.
Thousands
I don't
of
think so.
we're
Are
impressing.
clamoring.
Right, we're impressing people.